This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening and Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us. 2023 begins with a lingering mystery, one our community is desperate to solve. They hope to learn the identity of a woman police believe is the victim of an alleged serial killer. CBC's Cameron McLean reports.
Daryl Contois hopes putting up these posters along Main Street can help answer a question. Who is Buffalo Woman?
We're trying to bring closure to somebody's family and let them know that there are people that are in Winnipeg that care, for their loved ones, and everybody deserves to come home.
Winnipeg police have charged Jeremy Skibicki with murdering 4 women. Investigators have identified 3 of them. Indigenous elders named the 4th Buffalo Woman. All are believed to be Indigenous. Last month, police released images of a jacket which they say Buffalo Woman may have been wearing.
This jacket is reversible. So you'll see black on the one side, striped on the other.
Yesterday, volunteers posted images of that jacket around the area near where Skibicki's victims were known to access services like homeless shelters.
Our homeless population, they don't have access to TVs or social media and stuff like that. So, what else would they find out unless we get out and we start hanging up posters and talking to people? If we weren't doing that, then most of them wouldn't know.
They say people in the area are more comfortable talking to them than police, and their search has already turned up a possible lead.
So everyone I talked to so far is some don't know the name of the girl, but they know her complexion. We show pictures and they all pointed to the same girl. So we're going to pass this on to missing persons and let the detectives go from there.
Police would not say if they received the group's tip or comment further on the investigation. The volunteers hope their efforts can add a 4th name alongside Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Rebecca Contois. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
2022 was the deadliest year so far for COVID-19 in this province, with numbers adding up to December 19th, 2022. 958 Manitobans had died last year directly as a result of COVID or from an associated condition. That's more than the previous year when 725 people died of COVID in the province. In 2020, the COVID death toll in Manitoba was 667. The higher number of deaths does not mean COVID has become deadlier. Epidemiologists say more people got infected last year than in previous years. Public money helped put Winnipeg's new direct flight to Los Angeles in the air. A $5 million provincial fund helped the Winnipeg Airport Authority convince WestJet to fly 3 times a week between Richardson International and LAX. The money only flows to WestJet if the route is not profitable, based on a formula that factors in a number of costs. John Gradick is an aviation management lecturer at McGill University in Montreal. He says direct flight subsidies are unusual in Canada.
The traditional way of doing these things is to pay for the advertising program. The marketing program, the promotion program that's used to basically introduce and sustain the image of the new carrier is typically one that is the model preferred by airports rather than money going directly to the airline.
Winnipeg Airports Authority says the direct flight to LA has been well received. In fact, it's looking at adding more direct flights between Winnipeg and other international destinations. A lawyer who hired a private investigator to follow around a Manitoba judge is now facing criminal charges. The revelation came a year and a half ago that a judge was being tailed. It sent shockwaves through the legal community. The CBC's Ian Fraze brings us the latest developments.
The fallout from the unprecedented surveillance of a sitting judge continues. Lawyer John Carpe was arrested and released on bail for hiring a private investigator to follow Manitoba's top judge and see if he was breaking public health orders. One human rights lawyer wasn't surprised Carpe could face new consequences.
His conduct, to my mind, entirely fits the requirements for the criminal act of obstructing justice, which is basically you're attempting to interfere with the course of justice. And I would submit that hiring a private investigator to stalk the Chief Justice of Manitoba is something that easily fits within that description.
Carpe, who lives in Calgary, admitted to the act in the summer of 2021 after Manitoba's Chief Justice Glenn Joyal revealed in court he was being followed to his home and cottage. At the time, Joyal was presiding over a case in which Carpe was representing churches fighting public health orders. Carpe lost the case. Winnipeg Police confirms Carpe is charged with intimidation of a justice system participant and an attempt to obstruct justice. The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, which employs Carpe, calls these criminal charges unexpected and without explanation. But in fact, 18 months ago, Joyal said criminal charges are possible.
You have to be pretty naive when the Chief Justice says he's concerned that that constitutes obstruction of justice to not believe that when a charge for obstructing justice is ultimately laid, that's in any way a surprise.
Carpe could face professional sanctions from the Law Society of Manitoba. The hearing is in February. Because of that process, his employer argues criminal charges aren't needed. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
We talked a moment ago about COVID spreading in our province last year. There's so much we still need to know about that virus. Researchers in the province are now tracking the spread of COVID among wild deer. They partly want to see how the virus spreads among animals, but as Riley Lachuk shows us, another part of their research is exploring whether human health could be at risk.
That would be our COVID test.
Except this swab was not collected from a human nose, it was collected from a deer. Inside this lab in Dauphin, Manitoba, technicians and scientists have been probing the inside of the deer's nostrils and throats, looking for the virus that causes COVID-19. Hunters from across the province submit the heads of the deer they harvest to this Western Manitoba facility. Samples are taken and tested for a number of illnesses and diseases, now including COVID-19.
Last year we sent in 300 swabs, just testing animals from the hunters and the occasional roadkill and whatnot, and we got 3 positives.
And while infection numbers may seem small, less than 5% of the samples tested, scientists say these cases could potentially have repercussions for other animals or even humans. After U.S. jurisdictions started testing white-tailed deer samples for COVID-19, Davis says Environment and Climate Change Canada asked provincial agencies like his to do the same proactively after seeing evidence of transmission in other species of animals around the world.
We don't know if the deer, in particular in North America, will continue to have this virus actually circulate and become, again, this pool of viruses that could spill back into humans.
Pervenche says white-tailed deer, mule deer, elk, and moose have all been tested in Canada. And what biologists have found, white-tailed deer and mule deer in particular have been exposed to the same COVID infection, matching that of deer in the United States.
And it's surprising because when they did the genotyping of the type of COVID that was in the deer, there was an alpha variant and delta variant and another third variant that has only been seen in the UK. The concern is if it becomes endemic in the deer, are they then going to pass it back to people?
And how that virus evolves in deer, much like in humans, is still the big question. But how it evolves in animals could give researchers a better understanding of how it evolves in people. And that will take some more research before we have a clear answer. Riley Lachuk, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg mother and daughter resolved to spend 1,000 hours outdoors last year. They didn't quite make it. So, as the CBC's Joanne Roberts reports, they're at it again for 2023.
7-year-old Nora Douglas and her mother Tanya are already working hard on their New Year's resolution to spend 1,000 hours outside together in 2023.
Oh yeah, don't go too fast. We spend a lot of time outside in the summer, but we tend to hibernate in the winter. And so, we just thought, let's do it.
They spent 923 hours outside in 2022, just short of their goal, and say it was fun and beneficial.
Also, I learned a bit more on how to be independent.
By spending this dedicated time together outside, it really let her be more independent when we were not doing outside time. Okay, both of you guys, skate towards me.
The Douglases say they're going to get to 1,000 hours this year and say the key to getting themselves outside, especially in winter, is to bring friends.
I love that I'm spending time outside.
Nora's friend Garnet McGilvery and his mother Sean often go with the Douglases on their outdoor adventures.
Really, it's just about getting outside and doing what you can to spend those hours enjoying nature.
Even though the McGilverys aren't doing the full challenge, they're trying to spend more time outside. Their family also has another resolution: be mindful when it comes to buying new clothes.
Whether that's, buying from Once Upon a Child or wherever you can. Yeah, just trying to buy less brand new stuff to, be less wasteful.
Sean might also have another resolution: to make sure Garnet doesn't go too far in his own goal.
My New Year's resolution is to have candy forever.
With many chilly days ahead of them, Nora and Tanya have some advice for people who want to try the challenge too.
Get your parents' attention and keep saying, can we go outside, can we go outside, can we go outside, can we go outside?
Yeah. Just commit to 5 minutes a day. You don't have to, spend 3 hours a day outside every single day.
And 2 days into the new year, Nora and Tanya have 9,995 hours left to go. Joanne Roberts, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Skating would be a great way to spend some time outdoors. A portion of one of Canada's longest outdoor skating trails is now open. The first leg of the Nestawaya River Trail down at the Forks opened yesterday. It runs along the Assiniboine and Red Rivers. The trail was renamed last year to honor the original Cree name used for the Forks. Nestawaya means 3 points and reflects how people historically came to the area from 3 different directions on the rivers. The Forks says more sections of the trail will open soon. Let's take a look at your weather now, sitting at minus 13 degrees in Winnipeg. You know, that's right on seasonal normal for right now for January 2nd. And look at the current temperatures around the province right now. Really mild. Minus 6 in Morden, minus 9 in Lynn Lake. Even minus 17 is quite mild for Churchill. And that mild trend looks like it might stick around for a while. Satellite radar shows very little to report except some light, thin cloud up north. And even the futurecast, take a look at this cloud movement. That's all we've got to see. By tomorrow morning, we'll have some clear and sunny skies for Churchill and some very northern communities. A little break up by Dauphin there. You might see a glimpse of sun. By the afternoon, more communities in the south seeing sunshine. And then we've got some mix of sun and cloud for your Wednesday before, by the afternoon, most of us are sitting under the sun. But pretty stable weather coming this week. Look at the temperatures. Highs of minus 9, which is warmer than normal, and minus 11 for Thursday under a mix of sun and cloud. I'll bring you your 7-day forecast in just a little bit.
Weather update is brought to you by Home Equip, your trusted local source for Pride Mobility scooters. From sales to rental and repair, our team is here to serve you.
Anytime you miss something on CBC News, just go to our YouTube channel, our CBC Manitoba YouTube channel, and you'll likely find it there, including all our newscasts. Don't forget to subscribe while you're there, too. That makes it really easy. If you miss something, you can stay up to date whenever it's handy for you. After the break, we'll show you how people are remembering the former Pope, Benedict, and bring you the latest from Ukraine. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Tens of thousands of people are paying their respects to former Pope Benedict XVI. He's currently lying in state at the Vatican until his funeral later this week. The body of the Pope Emeritus arrived at St. Peter's Basilica this morning. Benedict will lie in state until Wednesday before his funeral on Thursday. Pope Francis will preside over his funeral mass, the first time a pope will be buried by his successor, Benedict died on Saturday at the age of 95. He retired from the papacy in 2013, the first pope to step down in 600 years. Soccer legend Pelé is being remembered where his journey began, in Santos, Brazil. Tens of thousands of people have been lining up at the stadium there, the stadium of his home club, to pay their respects. The stadium will be open to the public for 24 hours. Pelé's body will be interred tomorrow in a private ceremony on the 9th floor of a vertical mausoleum overlooking the stadium. The three-time World Cup champion died last Thursday at the age of 82. He suffered multiple organ failure as a result of colon cancer. Kyiv and cities around eastern Ukraine faced a third straight night of air raid sirens and Russian drone attacks. Meantime, Ukraine is now claiming responsibility for one of Russia's biggest setbacks yet. However, the scope of the Russian losses remains in question. Sarah Lornyuk has the latest now from London.
So this attack actually happened overnight on New Year's Eve, but with news of it only surfacing today. And this happened in the occupied eastern area of Donetsk, just outside of the regional capital in a city called Makivka. Russian-installed officials there did confirm that HIMARS rockets destroyed what used to be a vocational school that was being used as barracks for recently mobilized Russian soldiers. Video today showed that building was completely leveled, nothing left there but a pile of rubble. But that video was paired with a video posted by the Ukrainian army on social media of HIMARS rockets being shot off at night, and they posted that video just with the comment, "Surprise." Now, this could be one of the Ukrainian army's most deadly attacks since the invasion this spring, but the casualty count for the attack is unclear at this time. The Russian Ministry of Defense told Russian media 63 soldiers died. However, a well-known Russian nationalist and former FSB agent, Igor Gorkin, has posted online that he believes the death toll will be in the hundreds, and that more closely matches what Ukrainian representatives have said, which is that they believe as many as 400 were killed in the attack. But all of those numbers remain unconfirmed at this time. Meanwhile, Russia has continued to attack Ukrainian cities really relentlessly since midday on New Year's Eve. They've attacked the capital and eastern regions with drones, and in the case of the recently liberated city of Kherson, with near relentless artillery fire. Sarah Larnuk, CBC News, London.
Virtual learning versus in-person learning became a hot topic of debate among parents and educators during the height of pandemic restrictions. But there are also families who choose to teach their kids without any input from schools at all. Homeschooling is on the rise in Canada. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson introduces us to some of the families who've made that choice.
You're gonna. Single mom Amanda Lyko says the pandemic gave her the impetus to try homeschooling her son, Riker.
I'm a very big self-educator, and I've always found that I was a very avid reader.
It's a decision being made by a growing number of Canadian parents. The number of students who are homeschooled in Canada more than doubled in the early part of the pandemic, according to Statistics Canada. There are reasons for it, and the curriculums they follow vary widely. Amanda Lyko says she follows Riker's interests.
Some days we're sitting on the floor playing or drawing. Other days we're out and about walking or visiting the library.
This family, who live in a rural farming community, opted for a more regimented approach.
I'll sit with one student to do the lesson while the other one works on their handwriting, and then we switch.
Mom Martina Page says it's given her family more time together. Busing to school used to take an hour each day.
Both kids get to spend a lot more time with their dad. because we farm, so they can go out to see dad at the shop and dad comes home for lunch.
But there are criticisms, concerns about learning gaps, behavioral problems, and issues at home not being spotted. Others worry homeschooling could undermine faith in public education. But this researcher for the Fraser Institute, who has homeschooled her own kids, says people need not see homeschooling as a threat.
Almost 90% of students in Canada attend public schools.
She says reasons for homeschooling are both practical and ideological.
Public schooling is not going anywhere except for to improve as it sees that and responds to what parents are looking for in terms of curriculum, different pedagogy, different convictions that parents are becoming more vocal about.
What are we reading?
Pumpkin soup.
The families we spoke to all say they'd be open to sending their kids back to school in the future, even next school year. But for now, home is where the school is. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Your 7-day forecast is just ahead as we look at this beautiful drone shot of our city. And your daily lift is coming too. So stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Weather-wise, we are starting 2023 with mild temperatures, mix of sun and cloud. Look at the stability. The weather really isn't going to change much this week at all. We could have some fog patches developing tonight and tomorrow, lingering until tomorrow, so do be careful if you're driving. Pickleball, have you ever tried it? It's one of the fastest growing sports in Canada and also in the United States. It has a pro league that has recently tripled in size, and there's mounting support for pickleball to become an Olympic event by 2028. Tony Waterman has our daily lift.
The big lights of Texas are now shining down on a new American pastime, pickleball. This league in Austin draws more than 50 players a night, and it's just one of dozens of leagues in and around the city.
1, 2, 2.
AJ Davis is one of the organizers and a pickleball enthusiast. When she first started playing 2 years ago, she said it was easy to get a court. Now, if someone is 5 minutes late, they might as well go home.
There's just like an explosion of people. The skills people have, the training they're investing in, the number of coaches in Austin, the number of courts and places to play, everything's blowing up across the board.
And it's not just blowing up in Texas.
Pickleball is now the fastest growing sport in America, with nearly 5 million players. Its rapid rise has even caught the attention of sporting legends like quarterback Tom Brady and basketball star LeBron James, who have both fought stakes in Major League Pickleball teams.
Look, everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon.
Neil Schwartz has been a sports data analyst for nearly 30 years. He says that while major sports stars bring massive followings and credibility to the sport, pickleball's future may lie elsewhere.
There's a lot of unused real estate on tennis courts, basketball courts, outdoor courts that can easily be converted to pickleball. And that's where I feel, the sport really takes a momentous leap in terms of participation and then purchase of equipment.
You got it.
AJ Davis is already kitted out. She says she uses 2 pickleball outfits per day, changes out her shoes every 3 months, and she's fresh back from a 5-day pickleball vacation in the Turks and Caicos.
We just had a great time. We played every morning, would eat all day, play every night, and then drink all night. So it was a great time.
The possibilities seemingly endless for a sport that's been around for decades but is just now entering the mainstream. Tony Waterman for CBC News, Austin, Texas.
And of course, you know who loves playing pickleball, right? Teemu Selanne. He was here to be inducted into the Jets Hall of Fame. And what did he do? He stopped by the Refit Center to play pickleball. If it's good enough for Teemu, it's good enough for me. Might have to try it someday. Thank you for being with us tonight. Drive carefully. Could be some fog out there tonight and tomorrow morning. And we'll see you tomorrow evening for a full hour at 6.